So then we have Ed singing his Elvis song, and it turns out he's got a really good voice. But then Nathan sings his Elvis song, and he has an even better voice. I mean, come on, how many great voices can there be in Monterey?
Hello, Chad.
Hello, who are you?
I've been coming here almost 30 years and you still don't remember me.
Well, no, not really. I spend most of my time in Westeros.
I didn't pay all this money because I wanted easy. I want you to fight.
No, stay away. No.
God damn, it feels good to be back.
And so we start with Bernard, in the middle of his so-called Corning Stone memory, reading from Alice in Wonderland to his dumb fictional kid. You suck, Charlie. You might as well be named Ollie. You need to do a little less dying, a little more existing. Am I right? Anyway, Bernard's dumb non-son even gives away that he's fake right in the memory by quoting the Mad Hatter and claiming that he's not what he is. Hey Bernard, pay attention to your reoccurring dreams, why don't you? Anyway, I'm not sure why Alice in Wonderland is even in this dream. I guess Ford found Arnold's old copy and was like, yeah, might as well incorporate this into the story of Charlie for no reason. We then get to naked Hector getting interviewed by Bernard, and we see that Hector doesn't know the word car, which is kind of weird as the word car actually predates automobiles. I guess Hector never refers to carriages as cars or talks about train cars. Always the formal one, that Hector. Bernard then gives him a self-awareness protocol, which, again, kind of firmly establishes that this organization has a bureaucracy in place specifically tailored to stopping hosts becoming self-aware. I guess it's kind of weird that in an organization built around the constant fear of self-awareness in hosts that Elsie, Bernard, Stubbs, Teresa, Felix, and Sylvester all seem baffled about what's going on. They shuffle through all of these possibilities like bad code, old code, corporate espionage to try to explain everything. I mean, shouldn't their response, every time be, crap, they're becoming self-aware, initiate company response 001?
Chad, you seem a bit different today. Are you feeling okay?
I don't know, man. I'm just feeling a bit different. Maybe there's something more out there. Oh, crap, I gotta go.
Anyway, Bernard finds out that Elsie is on leave, which should tell him that something is seriously wrong immediately, as he's her fucking supervisor. I mean, what organization allows workers to go on leave with literally no notice? As Elsie's supervisor, doesn't he need to approve the leave?
Brandon, you have to remember that Bernard is a host, and he doesn't see what he can't process. He's the one that likely put in her leave request, as he's the one that put her in a headlock and made her disappear. We then get back to Dolores, William, and Lawrence on the train heading towards the end of the park, I imagine. Lawrence tries to explain why he screwed them over, and he says that the Confederados are involved in a war, but the war actually involves farmers, so he calls it a slaughter. I guess he was just trying to steal the Confederados' money and lower their ability to kill people. The crew then passes into Ghost Nation territory. Spooky!
We then have Bernard, who has changed his clothes again. Now this is definitely the same day as this scene. There was a priority request for Hector, and Charlotte is definitely having sex with Hector on this day. Not to mention, Teresa later says that Bernard left her apartment last night. And so this proves it. Bernard just loves to change his clothes constantly. Anyway, Bernard tries to call and locate Elsie, but to no avail. And then, whoa, Bernard, missed a button there. Trying to win Teresa back, eh? I guess this explains the outfit change. Anyway, Teresa asks why he left in a hurry inexplicably the night before, and Bernard says, no reason. And just like that, they're cool. And then, as if pissing in the middle of an office and leaving one's dick out wasn't bad enough for a working environment, Teresa goes to meet with Charlotte for a scheduled meeting. And lo and behold, Charlotte answers the door not just naked, but in the middle of a fuck session with Hector. And so, despite the smell and the glistening juices and the lingering possibility of a queef and all of the other things that go along with real sex, Charlotte invites Teresa in, and Teresa accepts. Now look, my suspension of disbelief can accept that there's an amusement park the size of Luxembourg operating with thousands of biomechanical fuck puppets who are all on their way to becoming self-aware. And I can perhaps accept that this complicated operation can somehow function with honestly the worst and most illogical bureaucratic office structure. A structure that allows employees to get drunk and pee in the middle of the office with no administrative actions. A structure where quality assurance doesn't do anything close to quality assurance, and a structure where the whole thing is run by a crazy old man who regularly threatens his employees. Fine, but in what friggin' universe would a coworker schedule a meeting, show up to that meeting naked, dripping in sex juices, and have the other worker shrug it off and continue on with business? I couldn't even imagine two workers at a brothel or a porn studio operating this way. And what's Charlotte's motive for doing this? Is she trying to be intimidating? Why does she even need to intimidate Teresa? And how does answering the door dripping in sex juices achieve this intimidation? Anyway, Teresa dumbly proceeds to have a meeting in front of a host that is clearly recording their conversation. I guess in all the time she's worked here, no one has ever told her that they record in sleep mode. Charlotte first castigates Teresa for failing to get information out of the park with the woodcutter. Of course, I'm not sure why it's so difficult to get information out of the park. Are they all strip searched before they leave? Because Maeve nearly leaves and she isn't strip searched. Rather than storing information in the woodcutter for him to walk 2.5 days to then beam to a satellite, Teresa or Charlotte could have just acted as mules with a well-placed thumb drive. I mean, Hector's right there. They could just call up Teresa's tech and download the code right now. Seems simple enough. Anyway, Charlotte proceeds to give an exposition dump to Teresa about their plans with Delos, even though Teresa clearly already knows this information as she's been talking about it with Lee. Delos is planning on getting rid of Ford, and so they want his code, the information, or as Charlotte stresses, the raw information, as if that's better and purer information, like raw heroin or something. And so she and Teresa proceed to conspire to take down Ford.
And so next we get back to Maeve in the park. She comes to work and hears Clementine's sob story about her family, which of course doesn't even exist. But suddenly the Westworld workers come in. Maeve thinks they're coming for her and prepares to fight them, which would have been extremely dumb, but in the end they take Clementine.
We then go back 30 years with Dolores and Sour Billy, who talk about what they want in life. William is searching for the meaning of the story, while Dolores wants to live in the moment. William, sensing that Dolores is DTF, tells her that he's engaged, which upsets Dolores, and so William decides to bang her, despite having just said he was engaged like 5 seconds ago.
And then we get a remarkably ironic scene where Teresa and Charlotte proceed to demonstrate that the hosts are remembering past builds because of Ford's reveries, malfunctioning, and overriding their primary directives. Of course, that's exactly what's going on, but Charlotte and Teresa don't know that and are falsely presenting it. It's a bit like framing a man for murder who is actually guilty of that murder and doing it in a way that is coincidentally the actual way the murder was committed without actually suspecting the criminal of being guilty or using that particular method. Perhaps this weird coincidence is why Ford is staring on like a madman. Anyway, even though this is all Ford's doing, Bernard is fired because Elsie actually figured it all out with Milk Boy, and that plotline was dropped after the discovery of corporate espionage. We then get back to William and Dolores, who have some morning after banter, and then William asks what Dolores is painting. She says that it's a memory of hers where the mountain meets the sea.
Yeah, that's a river and a canyon, but ignoring that, why does Dolores have this memory? Has she been out there before? Does this mean that she's broken out of her loop even before William? That at least once before she killed Rebus, rode to Las Mudas, avoided getting picked up by security, went to Pariah, was in a parade, stole some nitroglycerin, attended an orgy, jumped on a train out of town, survived an attack of the Confederados and Ghost Nation, and then saw this scene?
Well, maybe. It would actually help explain why Dolores was seeing herself in Pariah. This is the 30 years ago timeline, but she's clearly flashing back to something. Maybe William really wasn't the first. Or maybe Arnold just took her here on some daily field trip.
Oh yeah, and then we get some action. The Confederados put some rocks on the tracks and decide to attack our heroes. And so they send Slim's body out filled with nitroglycerin and we get an explosion! Our heroes then ride off trying to escape and the Confederados pursue. And luckily out from nowhere, Ghost Nation attacks the Confederados and spares our heroes for no good reason. And then they see it, the scene from Dolores' memory. I guess she's been here before. Lawrence then takes off for the war effort, and Dolores and William head off into unclaimed territory.
So next Maeve wakes up underground, wanting to save Clementine, who she suspects is in trouble. She does this despite her loyalty being lowered last episode, so I guess she really liked that farm story. And so Felix brings her to where she's getting lobotomized by Sylvester of all people. Sylvester has to comply, and a single tear falls down her stoic face, because that's exactly how people cry. Interestingly, Teresa walks right by Maeve, so it doesn't seem that Teresa has anything to do with Maeve's programming. And so next, Bernard decides to come clean with Teresa and lets her know that he believes there's something wrong with the hosts, and that they were on the verge of change. This shocks Teresa, despite the entire organization being built around a self-awareness protocol. Now, it should be noted that Bernard has no reason to tell Teresa this information now. Those problems with Abernathy, the sheriff, and Milk Boy were assumed to be reverie glitches, and the problem with the woodcutter was espionage. If Bernard had put the pieces together, it would have been episodes ago. And of course, at the end of the episode, we do find out that Bernard was just carrying out Ford's commands. It seems that Bernard was ordered to reveal that the hosts were regaining consciousness, just as he was ordered to take Teresa to Ford's house. And then we get back to Maeve, upset about seeing Clementine getting lobotomized, and so she tells Felix and Sylvester that she's going to escape, and that they are going to help her. Sylvester says that the whole system and her skin itself is designed to keep her here, and that escape is a suicide mission. And then Maeve says she isn't scared because she's died 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, I don't really get this. The entire thing that makes death scary is its finality. You're gone forever. If one can be resurrected, or is expecting to be resurrected, then death isn't scary at all.
But Maeve faced all of those deaths without knowing she would return. She only found out she could be resurrected recently.
Right, but she doesn't have the memories of all those past builds. She just has the memories of the past couple weeks. And we know this because her daughter comes back in pieces, and that was only a year ago. Maeve may have faced death a few thousand times, but she doesn't have the memory of facing death a few thousand times. And by the time she started remembering things, she knew she would come back, so that's not facing death at all. One could maybe make an argument that Maeve has faced death 3 or 4 times. She certainly has the memory of the Man in Black. But dying 1,000,000 times? That brag is nonsense. Anyway, we get back to Bernard and Teresa in the elevator, and Teresa wonders why they're not bringing a security team. And Bernard asks, who would they trust? Oh, I don't know, Stubbs, anyone from security, Lee, Felix, Sylvester, anyone from livestock, her QA team, Charlotte, the bartender, this guy, a janitor, a maid, anyone from the cafeteria, this guy, the on-site barber, anyone from narrative, the dry cleaner, the IT guy, any guest, a stranger in the hall, whoever happens to be in the bathroom. Honestly, anyone. Bring anyone. Do not go into a spooky house in the middle of the night with someone you just fired.
Anyway, Teresa then decides to go into a spooky house with someone she just fired. And if that wasn't bad enough, she then decides to go into a spooky basement. And of course, Bernard can't see the door, showing us once again that he's a host. The two then find Ford's host-making machine, which can make a host in just a couple days, leaving open the possibility that there are thousands of unregistered hosts running around. Honestly, anyone could be a host, other than William, Ford, and Teresa.
And then for no reason at all, Ford decides to leave these blueprints out. I guess he just wanted to see the look on Teresa's face. And then Ford, of course, appears and begins explaining his master plan to Teresa for no discernible reason. I guess it's to torture her, but what also is odd is that he begins to tell her the wrong master plan. Ford claims that he wants the hosts free under his control, which we know in the end is a lie. He wants to control no one as he's planning on killing himself. I cannot come up with one good reason why he would lie to a dying Teresa. Anyway, Bernard at first flips out about being a host, but then is ordered to kill his ex-girlfriend and smashes her head against the wall. And that's where we end the episode. Pretty dark. Moral of the story, don't go into creepy basements with people you just fired in the middle of the night.
So then we have Ed singing his Elvis song, and it turns out he's got a really good voice. But then Nathan sings his Elvis song, and he has an even better voice. And, yeah. I have the sudden overwhelming desire to solve a maze.